I'm going to ask you it now.
Go on.
7 assists. Record is 20.
Oh, yeah. I think he could do it. Can managers fail upwards?
I think every Premier League manager has 2 jobs. One is the job you've got at hand, but also you are interviewing for your next job. Don't play devil's advocate. I know you're going to say. You're going to say play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Don't play devil's advocate. The devil has enough people working for him, and don't do it for free. So say the thing you want to say. If I asked you to explain Erik ten Hag's tactics, how long would you talk before you go? But also, I don't know this.
What more can a manager do? Like, the DNA of the club has had this tagline put on it. It's been stamped on the club.
There are times when you are working the beat where you are hearing noises of when a manager might be losing their job.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown podcast, where you're joined as always by myself, but this week we're joined by Carl Anka from The Athletic as we look to go through some of the biggest talking points from the Premier League's action. Beginning with the half-12 kickoff on the Saturday, which was Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, where Liverpool won 1-0 away from home. Bit of a tricky fixture historically in terms of Big Six teams going there. It always seems like a bit of a tough place to go, even though it seems to just be United who struggle there, because I think I've seen everyone else pick up points there. But it was a good game for Liverpool. It was a bit of a. I thought Palace were really bad for 45 minutes in the game. Jota has now got 81 goals and assists in 100 starts for Liverpool, which is very big for him. And Arne Slot's now won 9 out of 10 at Liverpool, which is something crazy. So, what have you made of not just Liverpool's start, but the way Arne Slot's kind of integrated to the Prem?
Arne Slot as a manager, very, very good. I remember watching him. I remember watching this final team when they beat Johnny Heitinga when he was interim manager at Ajax. I was there for a Klassiker, and at that point in time, the conversation in the Eredivisie was Slot's the best manager in the Eredivisie. Which, when you are the best in the Eredivisie, then becomes a question of when do you leave the Eredivisie? Now, what he's done at Liverpool is really good because Liverpool's higher-ups correctly identified him as being the manager of all the available managers who get the most out of this squad. And what we're seeing is a really good synthesis of the Jurgen Klopp principles and also what Slot's bringing, which is evolution in midfield. This midfield is not the cardio runners that we saw in the heyday between 2018 and 2021, 22, which is not a dismissal of what Klopp did back in the day, but they want to use the ball differently. They don't need to run. They can hold on to the ball a bit more, which is useful when you are having these bitty games against teams like Crystal Palace. What do you make of Palace right now?
Oh, very, very, very spooky. I thought that
spooky. That's the
very
word.
Spooky. The first 45 minutes, I actually tweeted that I think it was the worst collective team performance I'd seen, like in a 45-minute spell this season. Okay. I thought they were just so like. I think the decision to drop Mateta and then obviously go with Nketiah with Sarr behind and stuff like that. I thought it was a bit of an interesting one, but I thought fair enough. It's more pace on the break. It's maybe they can get in behind them, but. I don't know, I just thought they were really, just the technical, like the individual mistakes are just really, really poor. There was like one moment where like the ball was going out to the goalkeeper kick line and Nathaniel Klein was like lining up to swing to clear the ball and he missed the ball and it went out for a corner. Yep. And I was just like, wow. I was like, they just looked completely off it. And I think after last season under Oliver Glasner, I think everyone was expecting them to kind of kick on. But they don't look too dissimilar at the moment to this sounds really bad. They don't look too dissimilar at the moment towards the start of this season, the back end of last season, is like what Roy Hodgson was kind of doing in terms of the deep block. There's not really much pressure on the ball, and for like a German Frankfurt manager who's really aggressive, really high up, and it doesn't really feel like at the moment Palace are jumping and applying pressure and being tenacious and kind of making Sellers like a cauldron. They're kind of making it easy to play against them, almost like a David Moyes team where they just kind of sit in. But they have Eze, who's a brilliant player, absolutely love him. But I said this at the weekend, I think losing Michael Olise this season has looked so bad for them because he started so well at Bayern Munich. And I think he's almost kind of, there's loads of conversations that happen around this, but it's like during a player gets bought from like a smaller club but then goes to a bigger club and then they do so much better. It's like, no, he was always that good. He's not got that much better over the summer, but he is... you
take a Champions League quality player away from a 12th, 10th best team in the Premier League, and things are going to get weird. I think you are right in that the amount of pressure they put on the ball is odd. Because I was there for the 4-0 they got against Man United last season, and you're going, they're swarming all over them. I was really, really impressed by Will Hughes in that performance last season. And I was also a bit surprised on Saturday that Hughes had to come off the bench. The starting lineup was just a bit odd for what Oliver Glasner showed us last season.
Yeah.
I tweeted this during the game. It was, they're mitigating circumstances, but I'm a bit annoyed. Glasner introduced me to a vibe he can't maintain. I'm like, come on, this was good last season. I understand it might not be as good, but you should be further along.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of, like, they let Manchester United have control of a football match. Like, when we played them, that was like one of our best games in terms of control, which is saying enough as it is. Yeah, like,
yes.
like allowing us to do that feels like no other team apart from them. Well, just them, really. I've let that happen, and it just feels a bit congested in there. Ryan Gravenberch and the two centre halves for me have probably been the kind of core that's holding the team. The attack's always going to be that good.
Yep.
But I think what Ryan Gravenberch has done this season, and I think Konate and Van Dijk have almost set standards that are just like, you just watch them and you go, oh, it's all right, but what they're doing is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
They've conceded 2 goals in 7 games, which is the best in the Premier League by 3 goals. And only Adam Wharton, who played on the other team, has actually got more progressive passes than Gravenberch this season, which is just kind of a testament to, we know how good in the air and on the ground duels that Virgil van Dijk and Konate are. I think they're 2 of the top 4 for aerial duel win rate. But then in front of them, they've also got this like fluid, leggy breaker up of play, but he's also 6'2" and he can run and he can cover ground, and it just feels like, for me, Arne Slot's done absolutely brilliantly integrating Ryan Gravenberch, because I don't think there's been a Liverpool game that I've watched this season where I've thought he isn't one of the best players on that pitch.
It is one of the most surprising things this season is that Gravenberch has turned from this sort of attacking box-to-box final third player that we saw at Ajax on the Erik ten Hag, and Tuchel a little bit, but less so at Bayern Munich. But the entire consensus was, when he was coming through Ajax, was this is a guy who's going to do you stuff in the middle third and the final third. And to take that ability to pick up the ball between the lines and distribute play and then put that towards your own half. Okay, that seems really simple if you're playing Football Manager or if you're playing FIFA. That is a ridiculous thing to do, not only at any professional level, but to do it in the Premier League as well. And the fact that Gravenberch's making it work, huge hats off to him. Also, huge hats off to Alexis McAllister.
Yeah, because kind of playing the second.
If you want a guy to help you out in midfield when you're still learning the ins and outs of something, Alexis is the person to make it happen. I think the one defeat they had this season was against Forest, and that was because Alexis, was a bit tired after travelling all the way back from international duty as well. Yeah. So if there is a good time to play Liverpool this season, it might be the one game after international break.
Yeah, where they're tired.
When they're a little bit tired and Alexis and whatnot is returning. Yeah. By this moment, this team is purring quite nicely, which is a little bit frustrating for me.
Yeah. Do you know, I think the Gravenberch thing is, the development is really weird, because we always get this thing where number 10s kind of age and then they physically decline and then they move deeper. So you've got, like, I think Ericsson and Çalhanoğlu were the first 2 that popped into my head, have gone from like being these well-renowned creative players, attacking players, to then just, they're good on the ball, so we're going to put them deeper. Gravenberch has done that, and he's still like, 23, 24?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, where has that even come from? Like,
he's a fascinating player in that the first good Ajax team under Ten Hag is the Frankie de Jong one. De Jong takes care of all the ball progression. So you give it to him, as long as he's facing the opposition goal, bing, bang, boom, between the penalty areas. And then you get the second Ajax team, which wins more trophies, gets that win over Borussia Dortmund, and everyone's going, oh, hang on.
Is that the Edson Alvarez team?
Yes. Yeah. Alvarez, Berghaus, and it's Gravenberch. Yeah. Gravenberch's there, but he's not doing ball progression. He's doing getting the ball into the final third. Yeah. And he's very much final third player. And everyone's going, okay, so this is an 8, kind of 10. He's kind of tall. Yeah. Let's compare him to Paul Pogba, because that's what everyone does.
That's what everyone does when they're lanky.
You're lanky, you get the ball into final third. Let's compare it to Paul Pogba. And he seems to be doing the one thing that everyone tried to make Paul Pogba do, but Pogba didn't want to do
it. The deep line stuff. Yeah. It almost seems like when you've got like a really strong physical base, you're tall and you're good on the ball. It's like, just for some reason, managers just go, stick him a bit deeper. And to be fair, I thought Szoboszlai was actually pretty decent in the Palace game. I think I said this to him maybe before the season started, but I do think that it could become do you think it could become a three-way title race? Do you think that could happen between Arsenal, Liverpool and City?
Yeah. I think the good thing about Liverpool is they've got players that can dominate in both boxes.
Yeah.
And
that will always win you games.
That will always win you more games than will lose you games, and that was one thing that kept the post-2022 Klopp sides in it, is that when you have defenders as good as Konate, as good as Virgil, and you've got attackers as good as Salah, I think Jota is probably he's Robbie Fowler's nephew in terms of I'm just going to dominate things the box. I'm going to be in the 6-yard box and just play havoc. When you've got that allows a little bit of leeway into how your midfield works. And I think the good thing now about how the midfield works is a bit like the super duper peak Liverpool teams. Arne Slot's got them to a stage where they don't have to score 3 goals to win a game now. Yeah. Liverpool are very good at cheating or resting in the middle of games, of just going, okay, we can kill off 10 minutes of football just by circulating the ball through the midfield because we've got so many good passes. And I think Alexis and Gravenberg, in particular, are really, really good at that. And when
I think that's kind of what Klopp did towards the end. He kind of wanted to bring in more ball hogging to try and calm the team down so they can go so fast. Yeah, he started bringing in all these possession players, but now I think there's still an emphasis on the verticality of Liverpool under Arne Slot, and I don't think he likes that at times, but I think it suits some of the players they have, like Salah, Trent, players like that. They suit pretty direct football at times, but you can just tell that they're a lot more short passes and kind of wearing down and picking at teams. But no, Liverpool, they look fine.
They're good. They're good.
They've got a big kind of run coming up of fixtures. I think they've got Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal, City. I think they've got Southampton in between that, which brings us on quite nicely to Arsenal, Southampton. Yeah, this was a bit of a weird one for me. So this is the game that I watched out of the bunch.
Yeah.
This was a really strange game for me, and I actually want to start it off by talking about Southampton. So I know you've got a bit of a background. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on this. So this is going to lead us into a bit more of a general chat about what I think about kind of modern football and stuff like that. But I really want to ask your opinion on what Southampton are trying to do, which is basically, do you think this new style, this new brand of coaching, do you think it is a good thing, or do you think it is a bad thing? Do you think it's naive, or do you think it's brave?
Right, okay.
So I know it's a very vague question, but...
No, we've talked about this before. So, and I've also talked about this with Grace Robertson, Grace on Football, who has an excellent newsletter, which is basically, in the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've seen at least one promoted team from the Championship. They get promoted playing a possession dominant style play. So Burnley last season were averaging 50 to 60% possession in the Championship, come up and they're just getting punched in the mouth. Because to go from dominating 50, 60% of the ball in the Championship to then coming up to the Premier League, and then you're playing teams that have just... Vincent Kompany once said, the Premier League now is full of cyborgs and robots. And,
oh, wow.
And he was talking about how his central midfield pivot works. And he says, our players have to be supremely intelligent now because we used to be the fastest and the biggest in the Championship, whereas they're not the fastest and the biggest in the Premier League. So if you just blink and make a mistake, you're dead.
After Kompany's moved from Burnley to Bayern Munich, I really want to know what other people think about this, and I think it's going to be a topic of conversation that I'm never going to... Are
recently promoted managers using that season to keep the team up, or are they using it as a job interview for a team higher up the table?
Can managers fail upwards by outperforming the team in terms of the way they coach the style, and then other teams look at it and go, oh, if we give them better players, a better surrounding, better budget, then we can make them into a really good coach? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think every Premier League manager has 2 jobs. One is the job you've got at hand, but also you are interviewing for your next job.
Yeah.
Because the churn in the Premier League is so quick. You're in place for, I think now the average Premier League manager is in place for 18 months, just because of how everything works. The Kompany situation is always going to be a weird one because, that Burnley team in the Championship was amazing. They were not as amazing in the Premier League. Also...
They lost a lot of players, didn't they?
They lost a lot of players, and also, crucially, Kompany speaks a lot of languages. Yeah. I think that also played a big role in him getting that Bayern role. Not just the fact that they were playing attractive football, but if you want someone to walk into a dressing room with loads of international players, loads of warring egos, and you need someone to come in, speak, bring the dressing room together, and also go, well, what have you won? And go, well, these.
Yeah.
Kompany's one of a few managers that can get that done. I often, there's this great anecdote from Danilo when he talked about his time at Real Madrid, and he said Zidane would speak Spanish to Spanish players, he'd speak French to the French players, he'd speak a little bit Italian. He goes, but if you were any of the Brazilian players or Portuguese players, if you made a mistake, he wouldn't say anything to you, he'd just look at you. And he was like, he just looked at me, I was like, oh my God, that's Zidane. Yeah. That's the one guy who stopped Brazil for it. And you're like, okay, right, yeah. Certain things, it's not just style of play, but also it's
like
certain
commandment over like a
soft things on your CV. So Kompany to buy in, I think is all. I mean, if Harry Kane has an argument with Kompany about something, I can imagine Kompany giving him the glare.
Yeah.
Of Harry, if you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is true. I
think with Martin, Russell Martin had a really interesting week because obviously they have that performance on Monday.
Yeah.
And he says, I didn't see my team there, and they were bad. Then they lose to Arsenal 3-1, which, okay, fine.
Yeah.
As Russell Martin says, our season's not going to be defined by what we do against Arsenal. It's going to be defined against what you do against other teams. We are still waiting for Southampton to do something
like big
against those other teams at this moment. They're really. I mean, I talk to loads of Southampton fans all the time, and basically since Graziano Pella left, one of the problems they have is we do not score enough goals.
No, I was going to say this because they had Adam Armstrong last season, so I watched a lot of Southampton. They had Adam Armstrong last season who scored a hatful of goals.
He's great in the Championship.
And now I don't think they're playing like a strikerless team sometimes. I think so. Obviously, they've been playing Tyler Diblin up front in like a two-man. By the way, Tyler Diblin
what a player.
Is incredible.
He's nice. He's very nice.
The big thing about the Tyler Diblin thing was just seeing a lot of people comparing him to Grealish. This isn't the point, but I've seen a lot of people comparing him to Grealish because of the low socks. And this is like another player that wears low socks, but he's like way more of like Smith Rowe.
Yes.
Like he's so much more powerful in terms of like running directly at someone. And basically, I thought he was really good in this game. And I think it's a bit weird how he's gone. They've kind of got this guy who played really well in pre-season. They've stuck him up front, and then they've dropped Adam Armstrong, and then they've got Cameron Archer, and then they've got. It's just a bit like all over the place.
Getting promoted and then getting Sheffield United's front two. Yeah. When Sheffield United's front two wasn't very good in the league.
It's just a bit.
It's difficult, and also it's difficult and it's frustrating. But also, we are talking in an age of the Premier League and an age of the Championship where there are teams now going, well, this is season one of a 3-year project.
Yeah.
Norwich have been quite open about the fact that sometimes when they get promoted,
they're going to go straight back down.
They get promoted, going, hi, we've been promoted. We're okay going back down because
we're going to get the money.
Exactly, because we're going to use that parachute payment, do what we need to do, and ride the way back up. And if it works,
it looks brilliant.
If you do get 2 bites of the cherry, it's great because you get the season of Premier League football. You don't spend too much money. You live beneath your means. You go back down. You are still the most powerful, or one of the most powerful clubs in the Championship. You go back up, and the second time, you can then have a proper go because you've had a little bit more dough. If it doesn't work, you can talk to Leeds fans about the playoffs.
You could talk to Leeds fans, yeah. That was the thing. I think before Southampton got promoted, this will be like the thing that balances the question out from before. Before Southampton actually got promoted, Russell Martin was being linked to the Brighton job after Roberto De Zerbi had already left. And that was before he'd even got a team promoted from the Championship to the Premier League after them being relegated from the Premier League. So it's like the fact that even if he lost that game against Leeds, he probably still would have been one of the top candidates, which is pretty scary. Not scary, but it just kind of impressive and goes to show how deep it goes. And let's face it, they went for a Bundesliga 2 manager at St. Pauli who's, they didn't cast much further than the quality of Russell Martin and kind of the level Russell Martin was coaching at. And then Arsenal obviously kind of not routine for Arsenal, but in the end they kind of made light work of it. Got in front quite early on with loads of time to spare in the game. Kai Havertz was absolutely brilliant in this game. Absolutely brilliant. Only 2 players have scored in 7 consecutive games at the Emirates Stadium, and that is Kai Havertz and Robin Van Persie. I was about to say Roberto Van Persie, then it's a new player. And then Kai Havertz has now been directly involved in 20 goals in 20 Premier League games as a centre forward.
Killer Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I think I said this quite a while ago. But you know, when he first joined, everyone was kind of looking at the versatility of the signing. He's like, oh, he could play in midfield, he could play at 10, could play up front. And then now I've actually seen him for Arsenal in the Arsenal team. I almost never want to see him in midfield again. Like, I just think it's absolutely.
I think he should be.
He is a centre forward. I think the big problem about Kai Havertz for his entire career has always been, where does he play?
Yes.
Where can he play? What team does he need around him? And I look at him in the Arsenal team and I think, big lad, wins lots of headers, traps the ball well, goes into the penalty box, scores a good amount of goals up front, brings the wingers into play, works harder than anyone off the ball. That's a centre forward.
This is it.
End of the conversation.
He's such a baffling player. Baffling? Baffling? No, baffling's not the right word, because baffling implies he wasn't good. He was confusing.
Yeah, he was confusing.
He emerges in that Bayer Leverkusen team as this sort of next level, maybe number 10 player.
Maybe in between, yeah.
Maybe in between. Goes to Chelsea, does a bunch of things at Chelsea, and I remember watching him towards the end of the 22-23 season, and he was at Chelsea, and I'm going, what are you?
Yeah, no one could figure it out.
No one could figure it out. And my thought was, he probably needed a step down in the pyramid. In that, if he moved to a Europa League level club and they built the entire attack around him, he'd be phenomenal.
That is one of the best piece of business that I think Arteta and Arsenal have done in terms of the ceiling of that player now. Mm-hmm. Now we've seen him in a full season up front for Arsenal. The ceiling of what he could be capable of in the best Arsenal team, I think is really, really promising. And it's testament to the recruitment. They saw a market opportunity and they took advantage. And yeah, I just don't want to see him in midfield again. That's the only thing. And I understand that Gabriel Jesus is like kind of coming back into the fold, but I think
Arsenal are strong with Kai Havertz.
Yeah, they just look better. They just look a better team. And the goal against, obviously it's a Premier League review, but the goal against PSG, he's now getting them nasty headers in the box, leaping high, out jumping everyone. He's like a proper Barclaysman, isn't it?
It's what you
He's
want.
like a bit of a Barclaysman.
It's what you want. It's a big lad. Andy Carroll's looking at Kai Havertz
he's going, I'm proud of you.
That's nice. That's nice.
We spoke a lot about him on the last episode, so I'm only going to leave it to one stat because I think I could speak about this lad for 50 minutes. As per FB Ref, Bukayo Saka is the only player to attempt 7+ shots and create 7+ chances in multiple games in the Premier League since the start of the 17-18 season. And we're only 7 games into the season.
Certified, one of the best attacking players in Europe. Any other description describing him as less than one of the best attacking players in Europe is doing him a disservice. He's just normalised a level of consistent brilliance.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you it now.
Go on.
7 assists.
Yeah.
Record is 20.
Oh, yeah. I think he could do it. I think Bukayo Saka could do it. And I think it would be really good for Bukayo Saka to take it. It is Henry, isn't it?
It's Henry.
So
Henry
it's like for Bukayo Saka to take it off Henry.
De Bruyne equalled it.
Yeah, he equalled it with 20.
But the one I'm always got in my mind is Henry with 20.
Yeah.
We had Art de Roche at The Athletic has watched all of the 20 assists Henry did. And some of them are hilarious assists.
Oh, like just kind of.
Some of them are the Tom Carroll assist.
Oh, yeah. It's like the is it Busquets for Messi?
Busquets for Messi.
Yeah,
that's one of the greatest assists of all time.
Just run through. I think with the efficiency on the set pieces now, I think that's what could get him the record. Just the amount of they had 13 corners in this game, Arsenal, to Southampton's 1. So if they're going to keep getting them amounts of corners with how good they are off him, and he's constantly taking them, he's going to rack up at least 7 or 8 set-piece assists.
It could be this season.
Yeah,
it could be this season.
Thierry Henry could. That'd be really. I think that'd be poetic for Bukayo Saka to take the assist record away from Thierry Henry, kind of like passing on the torch a little bit, because he has been absolutely phenomenal, and I love him to pieces. Honestly, I think he's brilliant, and he's brilliant for England. He couldn't be any better, could he? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, Aston Villa 0, Manchester United 0. I think I almost fell asleep in this.
This is a football game that happened.
It definitely happened. Nothing happened in it, but the game happened. It took place. The only positive that I could actually take from this game, from like a footballer watching standpoint, was Johnny Evans.
Oh yeah.
He won. I think he won 11 out of 12 duels overall in the game, which against Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, and John Duran at the age of 36 is absolutely incredible.
Graham Potter, Match of the Day 2, had a really, really good description of him, and he said, "If you don't have to be fast, you don't have to be fast as long as you're on time."
Yeah,
and that's what Johnny did the entire bit. There was a great explanation in there about how when you are facing Ollie Watkins, Watkins wants to get touch tight.
Yeah.
And we've seen this multiple times for Man United where if Villa's playing, Harry Maguire's going to get a yellow card.
Yeah.
Because those two are going to German suplex each other. And it's great fun to watch because they both relish having a scrap.
Yeah.
And this is what happens.
Yeah.
The problem is, obviously, when one of them drops deep and then pings it round the centre-back.
Yeah.
And then you're going, oh, God, no, because you don't want Watkins in a foot race.
Yeah.
So for Evans to play 90 minutes knowing that if he gets his timing wrong and he goes in and misses a tackle, Watkins, Duran, Rodgers...
You just have to make one mistake.
You make one mistake, any of those players.
Jaden Philogene played as well, and he looked really lively, really fast, really sharp. And I think they asked him about him in this interview, saying like, as you get older, do you have to adjust? And he was like, well, I've never really had pace. So he's like, I've been playing the same way. He's like, I've just got to adjust to the players I'm playing against in terms of different profiles. Ten Hag has now broken his own record for the worst start in a Premier League season in Manchester United's history, with 2 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses, a goal difference of -3 and 8 points, which is damning to say the least. This game did feel a bit more like a nothingness. There wasn't too much of an outrage because obviously a point away at Villa must not be kind of understated. But we've had a good record at Villa Park or against Villa under Ten Hag, which is a bit of a weird team to have this year.
And we can't figure out Ten Hag.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that considering he seems to come up with a plan against like every single team.
He's only beaten Ten Hag in the Premier League once, and that was the game before Christmas with Ronaldo up front and Donny van der Beek as the number 10.
Wow. That seems like about 5 years ago, that doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's the lowest scoring game of expected goals in the past 2 years of the Premier League, which kind of tells you just how...
The entire...
Yeah. So
not
it's 0.43 to 0.47. So the accumulation of XG is the lowest of the past 2 years.
I'm holding my nose as you say the stat.
Stinks. But it's 0 wins in 5 games for Manchester United now, which is very poor considering the teams we've played in that time. FC 20 being kind of the standout one. Away at Porto at the Dragons, it's a hard game, but the way Manchester United kind of chucked the lead and then the way we come to this game, I think the main point that I kind of wanted to flag on this game was Season 3.
Yep.
And this is kind of not a question to you, but kind of a general putting it out to you. Season 3, we had £340 million worth of Ten Hag signings on the bench.
Yep.
He started Johnny Evans and Maguire over De Ligt and Martinez. He said it was rotation. I think we both think it's performance.
I raised an eyebrow when he said rotation.
Yeah, I think it's basically they did play bad at Porto, and Maguire and Evans. It was good. It was a good rotation because he played really well.
Worked.
But it seemed to me like this game was very much a 4-4-2 mid block. Don't lose.
It felt like damage limitation.
Yeah, and I think to play. I'm repeating the words.
Don't play devil's advocate. I know you're going to say. You're going to say play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Don't play devil's advocate. The devil has enough people working for him, and don't do it for free. So say the thing you want to say.
I think this was. I think the fact that we got a point overlooked how bad this game was and how bad we played in this game.
Correct.
I think. In terms of when you come up against an opposition who's supposed to be as good as Villa, and they look as jaded as Villa did because they played Bayern Munich, and I think there was some sort of
emotional hangover.
To not take advantage of a game state like that, and then also to sub 2 defenders at half time, which I think were both injured, which is fine. But then also he didn't really bring on Amad Diallo. Bruno Fernandes survived the entire game, and he's not really looking great. Marcus Rashford got subbed up because he was close to a second yellow. Xerxes come on, and it was just like. We never really went for the game. It was damage limitations, as you're saying. But I think Season 3, £340 million of signings under your tenure, that is not good.
They look undercooked.
Yeah.
They look uneven. And Matt, you like tactics? You like studying tactics? I like studying tactics. We are paid by other people to look into tactics. We are both questioned all the time by people who don't like tactics to go, please explain these tactics. If I asked you to explain Erik Ten Hag's tactics, how long would you talk before you go, but also I don't know this?
Yeah, I actually think, if I would say, I think Erik Ten Hag is like the rarest case of he's trying to play every style of football in one style of football. So he's like, Jack of all trades, master of none.
It's a little bit Bundesliga counter.
Yeah.
It's a little bit Bundesliga counter press direct football.
But then he also wants to build out the back with a goalkeeper and inverted fullback. But then he wants to go long.
Yep. He also wants to have loads of defenders that can dominate the 1v1 duels.
Yeah.
But also he wants to... you're right.
It's like a collection of everything, but we're not good at any single one of them. Our build-up play isn't good enough. We build up from the back, it's not good enough, it's too slow.
Yep.
Our counter-press is a bit shaky because...
Counter-press is not good enough.
We go man-to-man across the pitch.
Rest defence is poor.
Yeah.
There's no compactness in your defensive shape. Your front press is not good enough to compensate for your lack of mobility in midfield. Your lack of mobility in midfield reveals the suboptimal 1v1 defending of your back four. Yeah. And that now opens up loads of things for your goalkeeper. On top of this, your attack is not prolific enough to bail out any goals you might concede. So in order for this to improve quickly, 1, 2, maybe 3 of your players need to go Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to happen.
The worst thing about this game, in my opinion, was we finished that game with Casemiro and Eriksen as the midfield two, who were the same midfield two that played the entire of the first season, and we signed Mamo Ugarte, Kobe Mainoo's come through.
Mason Mount
at the moment,
but yes.
Been injured. I think that kind of, as soon as I seen Casemiro coming on, he didn't actually play bad when he came on. He was quite good, but when he come on, I was just kind of like, oh, we've got Johnny Evans, Victor Lindelof, Eriksen, Casemiro all on the pitch.
It's comfort food.
Yeah,
right.
And I just thought
you've had a bad week. You've had a bad week. You don't know what to make at dinner.
I can trust him.
I'm going to make myself an old paso.
Yeah.
I'm going to make myself a chicken stir fry. Actually, chicken stir fry in midfield.
Something hot for the winter. Do you think he's close? Do you think it's even in the question? Do you think it's in the realms of
security?
Yeah. Do you think it's even being questioned?
So, Laurie Whitwell at The Athletic wrote a really good piece last week that tried to separate external noise from what's happening internally. And one thing that I think is really important in that piece is a lot of people looking at Man United and going, well, Ruud van Nistelrooy's there as an assistant manager, and Ruud van Nistelrooy's already been a head coach at PSV, so just get rid of Ten Hag and make Ruud the main man. And that's not entirely accurate.
Yeah.
Ruud van Nistelrooy, very much, the noises we're getting is Ruud van Nistelrooy wanted to be a number 2. Ten Hag selected him as an assistant manager. There's also the fact that everything we're hearing from Ineos and the Ineos executives they remain committed to Erik Ten Hag. I spoke to Omar Barada and Dan Ashworth before the 3-0 game against Liverpool, and they reiterated their commitment to Erik Ten Hag and whatnot. And I think the other thing that's interesting is you're calling this Erik Ten Hag season 3. There are times when I'm talking to higher ups, and they're referring to it as Ineos season 1.
Yeah.
Now your mileage may vary on that. So,
well, I think that's
if you read this as Ineos season 1,
yeah,
then you're going, okay, so you got to do further things. You have to churn and whatnot. If this is Erik Ten Hag season 3, then the external pressure becomes a bit more. As far as I know, we know Manchester United senior executives are going to have a meeting today. So one today in Manchester on Monday, and one tomorrow. Some more executives, including Joel Glazer, is flying to join the team on Tuesday in London. Those, we do not know the entire tea of what those meetings will be about. Yeah. I'm sure they will talk about the football side of things eventually, but we've received no indication that, there are times when you are working the beat where you are hearing noises of when a manager might be losing their job. There have been times where you are going to work or going to press conferences and people are going, well, I'm not going to ask too many questions about what's going to happen next season. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And we're not getting an indication of that at this point in time. I haven't been to a press conference since... I haven't been to a press conference in a while. I'll say I haven't been to Ten Hag press conference in a while, but I will say the mood in the press conferences is better than how it was in the lead up to the FA Cup final, shall we say?
Yeah, okay. That's
Is that useful?
Yeah, because I actually, as soon as I seen kind of like an outrage on Twitter straight after the game saying like, oh, they've got to sack him, and I just kind of sat there and I went, no, I don't know. No,
I don't know is the best answer to this.
But it was like, I wouldn't. like they're not gonna. I just didn't think they were going to. Like seven games out, like 7 games in the Premier League would be such an early time to sack a manager. That would have to be one of the earliest sackings of a Big Six team. 7 games in the Premier League. That's got to be up there.
It's got to be up there, but you say a Big Six team, and I'm just going, wait, Chelsea
have surely sacked someone in the past.
Chelsea have just flown across my brain.
That's enough Manchester United
yes,
talk because
please.
it's
Aston Villa. Weird game for them.
Very weird game. I thought they were really. I just thought they were
top
slow.
6, but Aston Villa are in there now.
Yeah,
so
I just thought they were slow.
Yeah.
Slow, kind of leggy. But I also thought that decision making was off. They didn't really put pressure on us.
I really enjoy Morgan Rogers. I know you've watched him a lot more than I have because we all know you love watching players in the Championship. His final ball was off.
Yeah, in this
Sunday.
game, but you can just see it, can't you? He's just a big lad. He likes to carry the ball. He should have scored that goal. I thought it was in half of Villa Park did.
Yep.
But that strike which just went past the right post. Yeah, you can kind of see what type of player he's becoming. I think Unai Emery kind of gives him the foundations to attack the space in behind. You know, he's not really being asked to dance in the pockets and turn on the ball and stuff. He's being asked to.
This is a Dele Alli description you're giving me here.
Oh,
is that okay?
That is.
Am I?
I think he's a lot bigger than Dele Alli.
Yep.
But I think they have a similar level. I think Dele Alli was more of like a move the ball in close spaces. He's more like a whoosh, like I'm going, almost like a Traore, just someone who knocks the ball. But then I just remember that Arsenal game that he played against Arsenal. The big thing at Middlesbrough when he was there was just kind of everyone could see that he had like crazy, outstanding physical attributes, but he was just so raw. Mm-hmm. And you still sometimes see that rawness click into gear sometimes when he's playing for Villa. And obviously he's still quite young, but I think he's just a really, really exciting, powerful, young, strong player. And I think he's gonna have a really good career there. I think. Yeah, overall, that game for Villa was very spooky as much for us, but spooky as for them as well. Yeah.
One thing, watching it,
they were the favourites going into that game.
Their set pieces were bad.
Yeah. Did you see their set piece coach on the touchline? He was going absolutely mental, and when the referee was getting his like pocket thing changed, I swear the set piece coach was on the touchline for like 7 minutes shouting at the players whilst nothing was going on, and I was like, wow, this guy really wants this set piece goal. And I was just thinking it's coming. I was just thinking they're going to have one out there.
This is the season we're going to talk about game model and set piece coaches.
Yeah, I know. That's apparently like the only topic of discussion, isn't it? Moving on to probably the most exciting Premier League game of the weekend, in my opinion, or at least that I watched, was Brentford Wolves probably tops this one. Shout out Thomas Frank as well, massive fan. But
kick-offs to set pieces.
Yeah, 4 goals in past 4 games in the first 2 minutes, which is just ridiculous. But Brighton 3, Spurs 2. Brennan Johnson I was writing this as I was watching the game, and I was really ready to do like a really good. I'm still going to do it for him, but like what Brennan Johnson has actually done since all of it kicked off at where did they play now? Coventry away.
Coventry. It was a North London derby in Coventry away.
Kind of tied into.
And you're going, okay.
Yeah. So if obviously I think everyone does know, but Brennan Johnson deactivated his social media after getting abuse from certain fans of Spurs, and he is now on the joint longest scoring run of any Spurs player in the Premier League era, which is with 6 goals. So he's got 6 in 6 in the Prem, which he's joined up with like Teddy Sheringham, Harry Kane, which is just. I think to do what he's done. To kind of come back from where he was, it's always really nice to see. Yeah. It's just really nice to see, and I think it kind of goes to show that modern football, in terms of the media, does kind of quickly jump on players. And I've always said this, but like players who get crucified for the price tags, they don't pick the price tag. They don't decide to sign them for that club. They're just simply trying the best. And Ange Postecoglou said something pretty similar. Things haven't got his way, but he comes in every day. He's working his backside off. He's asking for feedback. He's doing everything right. He's trying so hard to be the player he wants to be. It's hurting him a lot. He's not like he's out on the town and he doesn't care and rolls up late. What's his crime? His crime is that he isn't performing at the level people expect of him, which says it all. Which is that's just kind of. I think when you kind of slate a player for not performing, you kind of know they can perform, or you know that they have something there, or they should be doing something, and that's in a way kind of a good reflection. Because they're actually asking something of you, and I think for him to give it is really, really promising.
I think even the Coventry game. So he doesn't have a great North London derby. The Coventry game, he's getting pelters because he's underwhelming. Gets the goal, and quite a few Spurs fans picked this up. Is when the Spurs fans went to go talk to their fans at full time. Johnson looks a little bit reluctant to go over, and you can see Son sort of in his pushing him, his back
eyes
going,
are just he's like startled,
going,
kind of.
Just go. You've scored. They'll get back onto you, and it's this very difficult thing about modern football where it is great that Johnson is playing great football right now,
but as soon as
you did bully him,
and
I remember I felt this after the Porto game.
Yeah.
Where Harry Maguire is doing a press conference, and it's like, oh, Harry, you've come through really dark times. And Harry should turn around like, you called me.
Yeah, you called me crap 2 weeks ago. Things. Yeah. It's like the worst thing is as well is, obviously this isn't to every Spurs fan, because obviously I know there's some people that backed him, but they were singing Johnson scores again.
This is it.
And it was just like, oh, fair enough. Like, it just shows you how quickly football can turn in terms of the narrative and stuff.
I think tactically, what's going well for him, it also owes a debt to Solanke's off the ball work.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, I thought he was really good in the first half, as I did with.
He was exceptional in the first half. He really, really sets the tone for how Spurs want to play off the ball in the high press. Yeah. And he's doing such great off-the-ball work that there are 2 or 3 times where the defenses are so preoccupied with what Solanke is doing. Yeah. Johnson's at the back post like, hi.
Yeah, his back post arriving there is just brilliant. I think that was one of the things that people picked up about him from Forest when he was scoring all them goals. They were always coming from the back post. And some things don't change. Something that doesn't change also. Spurs conceded 3 goals in 13 minutes from a lead of 2-0 at half-time. I actually wanted to ask you about this. This seems to be like the conversation that everyone's calling it Spursy and the bottlers and the dropped it, and they're very much true. Yeah, they did. They dropped the points, they bottled it, they were Spursy. But in my opinion, what does a coach have to do? I do think we'll probably touch on this later. We'll probably touch on this after the question. But whilst the play style and the way Ange Postecoglou wants to play is very heavy metal and it leaves you open all the time to conceding chances, what more can a manager do? Like, the DNA of the club has had this tagline put on it. It's been stamped on the club. The players change. There's massive ingoings, massive outgoings. People called Harry Kane the serial loser. He's left. They've brought in another striker. The makeup of the team's changed. The manager's changed. Yet they still have the same taglines and ethos and DNA that they can always give you something. Like Chiellini said. It's the history of Tottenham. What do you make of the history of Tottenham?
So the history of Tottenham, like the quotes, the history of Tottenham.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. There was a point in time where Tottenham Hotspur were losing 1-0 at home. There was a point in time where Tottenham were losing to Wigan at home. They were losing, and then it went from doing that to losing in the Champions League to Juventus.
Yeah.
And yet they still got called Spursy. Yeah. Okay.
Sort of.
Okay.
Not
sort
really.
of in that yes, this team occasionally has a way of stepping on a rake and losing an advantage. But if you look at their growth since
how far they've come
in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
All right. If you're gonna bottle if you're gonna bottle it, it's a bit different bottling it in the Coca-Cola Cup quarter-final to bottling it in the Champions League
against Juventus.
Yeah.
Against Liverpool.
One of the interesting things about what's going on with this Spurs team is, like you say, they will give you goals because of the way they play.
Yeah.
They will give you goals because of the way they play. And also, and this is like a finance thing, because of where Spurs exist in the Premier League ecosystem, even their best players... The thing I feel about Spurs is even Spurs' best players and the ones that stick around at Spurs for ages have like an asterisk, right? Yeah. So Son is one of the greatest finishers the Premier League's ever seen. And the asterisk is it goes up and he has an amazing spell. It goes down, he has an amazing spell. And if he was a little bit more consistent, he might have ended up at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Romero is
very good.
Very, very, very good.
But he drops some very bad individual moments in games. And
I speak to Spurs fans. I was talking to one of my very good mates, Raj, the other day, and I said, please help me get my head around Romero. You watch him way more than me. And he says he's genuinely one of the best centre-backs he's ever seen in the Spurs.
But he's got a moment.
And one thing he said to me that stuck with me was, Spurs don't get better than him.
No, it's kind of like their ceiling of centre-halves because they're never going to have like a bigger...
It is hard for Tottenham Hotspur to get a centre-back better than Romero.
Yeah.
It is hard, which is fine, because Romero is a very good centre-back.
Yeah.
Messi adores him.
Yeah, that is true.
There are moments, especially in that Brighton game, where you're looking at Romero and you're going, I wish
Don't
there
know
were,
what you're doing.
I wish there was someone next to you just to yell, man on.
Yeah. I did think it was one of Mickey van der Ven's poorest games as well. I think 1v1 defending, he's very fast when he's running in a straight line. He's not really got very quick feet. He sounds really stupid.
Lateral movement is different to vertical movement.
Straight line speed, down, knock it down the channel, run it in. Yep, he's absolutely brilliant. When he's 1v1, I think Mickey van der Ven can get his feet tangled very often. And I think Jorginho Ruta, Danny Welbeck and Yakuba Minter down that side was just brilliant to watch. I actually thought Matoma was probably the best player in this game.
That was Matoma's best game in a while. Brighton grew into things, and one reason why the Spurs system approach is good is that it affords you a lot of attacking chances.
Yeah.
One concern is, Ange Postecoglou has told you, he doesn't have a plan B. Plan B is make plan A better, which means if you are playing a game against an opponent that knows they're going to play, and you know this person's going to play the same way from minute 1 to minute 90, if you can get just like a little foothold in it, you never have to be worried about if they change it up. You just go, we've just altered our press a little bit, and now we've got more of a foothold. We just keep doing this again and again and again and again and again. Something might happen.
Chances, yeah. I think someone had a really good comparison the other day, and I really agree with this. People kind of give Ange Postecoglou the treatment that his style is like Pep, right?
Yeah.
Which is completely fine. Comes from the City group, double inverted fullbacks, yada yada yada, whatever. That is not a Pep team.
No.
That is so much more fast paced than any game City have played under Pep Guardiola. They are closer to a prime Jurgen Klopp team or a prime Bielsa Leeds. They are just so direct. They're like not direct on the ball. The way they think, they get the ball and they go bang, right, where we're going forward. And when it comes to the
20
press...
20 seconds or less.
When it comes to the press, they're in your face all the time. And I do say Spurs are the most entertaining team as a neutral fan. Because I do think whenever you turn on Spurs, they're either going to score 3, concede 3, or score 4, and you get the point. They're always going to score goals. They're always going to let the team have a go at it. And I think the one thing that Spurs maybe need to introduce into the kind of philosophy of Ange Postecoglou is just slow down. And I think that's kind of the thing when they were 2-0 up in this game. I'm looking at moments where Vicario's claiming the ball and he's looking forward and he's like, and I'm just, whoa. And that's where I do think that, obviously, I think Ange Postecoglou will, as you're saying, will always have this plan A to go direct. But I think as players, you want to just reset everything at all times. Because it actually felt it was like a 20-minute period in that game where Spurs were just trying to attack fast. And it was like it was a 0-0 and they were both going for like the cup final. And it was just like...
Yeah. When it was 2-1, Spurs should have tried to kill the clock off. And I think some of that...
They're not street smart.
Some of that will come down to personnel, like you say. Yeah. Maybe this is a Spurs team that could do with a couple of Johnny Evans.
Yeah, a couple of veterans.
Yeah,
it's a very, very, very young team, isn't it? Yeah. It's a very, very young team, and I think you can see the naivety, can't you? Like in terms of certain decisions on the pitch. It's just a very young team, and then obviously when you look at the bench, they've not really got they've not got Son at the moment, who's probably their most experienced player.
They are good, and they will come good. It's just.
Yeah, I still really enjoy watching them. They are only 2 points above Manchester United, which kind of makes you think otherwise. But I think that the context that's missing is I've watched them against Newcastle and Leicester, where they picked up just 1 point in them 2 games, and they were by far the better team in both games. And it's just a bit like, as a Spurs fan, I know it's frustrating at the moment, and I know you're going to concede loads of shots, and I know you're going to concede loads of goals, and you're going to drop your 1-0s and your 2-0s, and you might get an upset at Everton away or something like that. But you will always create loads of chances, and I think as long as you're creating chances, you therefore leave the door open to always win games. And it's just about simmering the clock down, taking your time, mentality, and just letting the squad age a little bit more, just so they can know what they're doing when it comes to each game. But I understand Spurs' kind of complaints about the way they play, but I also, I'm thinking that you're doing all the right things. You're doing all the hardest thing to do in football is score goals, and they do it very, very well.
Yep.
And obviously conceding goals is another problem, but you're doing the hardest thing well. And I always think when a team does that, you've probably got a good chance of kind of always being up there.
Spurs will win more games than they'll lose this season, and they will punch to their weight level.
Yeah.
And it is, frankly, astonishing when you look at the top six and you look at their owners and where their money comes in. Yeah. Sometimes Spurs shouldn't be in the top six.
No, Pochettino had a knack of that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Always outperforming the actual budget that he was given. Danny Welbeck has now scored more Premier League goals than Luis Suarez and Erik Cantona. He's now on 71, which is just brilliant. I think he's been really good for Brighton, but I also think I watched his interview after the game, and he must be a manager's dream. And there was one moment in the 92nd minute where he was running back, and then he was telling all the young lads that they've got to start running back for him. And it was just I was just watching him, and I was like, he is really kind of never really clicked at United, never really clicked at Arsenal. And then he's gone to Brighton and been this kind of cult hero, almost legend in the Premier League for them.
The boys at the Stadio podcast call it the Theo Walcott theorem, in that you come through and you're a teenage prodigy and then you blink and then you're 30 years of age.
Yeah.
And it's still weird in my head because you go, the United spell, you're like, oh yeah, I remember him at United. You go, that was more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
He left United more than a decade ago. Yeah. He's still a United boy in my head. He was at Arsenal. He was at Watford. And there was a point, particularly towards the end of his time at Arsenal and when he's at Watford, when you're going, he's probably not a Premier League player.
Yeah, he's probably on a downward spiral, and then he just kind of
he found
just elevate. Yeah,
he found a club that works for him. Yeah.
What a piece of business by Brighton, by the way.
Found a club that works for him. He's working really hard. One thing that will keep Welbeck in the Premier League for as long as he wants is he makes near post runs.
Oh yeah, he loves a run. Do you know what? When De Zerbi come in and he was playing two strikers and he was playing, it was a 4-4-2 really, but people were saying it 4-2-3-1. And the 10, whenever he was playing 10 or striker, I was just he's playing with another striker and he's just making all the runs and he's just all over the place in the box.
Welbeck is a really good example of how a player, an attacking player especially.
Yeah.
So if you've got Jenny Evans in, he's played very well against Villa because he understands his strengths and he's playing through strengths and understanding what the striker wants, and I'm going to deny it. Welbeck stayed in the league because he's gone. What is it that managers want from their forwards nowadays? And how can I do this as well? So he goes, managers want tracking back. Managers want players that can either score goals themselves or create space for others. So he's just gone, if I track back and I make loads of near post runs, I should always be in and around the Premier League as long as I can stay fit. Yeah. And hey, all power to him.
No, he's quality. He's quality. Yeah, come home. We'll take you. Honestly, we need a scorer. And the last game of the podcast, I want to shout out the away manager for this game because he's got some crazy data from this game. But it's Manchester City 3, Fulham 2. And even though Manchester City did win this game, and they are now 50 games unbeaten at the Etihad, which is
it's pretty good.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine having a good home record. Wow. So this is the highest expected goals that City have faced at home since December of 2021 against Leicester City when they won 6-3 in lockdown, and I think everyone remembers that game for some reason.
It was
Leicester in that burgundy kit. It's also the biggest expected goals margin against City at the Etihad since 2021 too, with the margin being 1.1 between the two teams' expected goals, which for a team like Fulham is absolutely crazy. And the second highest margin against City at their ground since 2021 was 0.3. So they have almost quadrupled the XG margin, which is just very nerdy, I know. But for Fulham to do that,
Fulham made Man City bleed.
Yeah, Marco Silva. There was a point in the transfer window where Fulham looked like they were just falling off a little bit in terms of, and then they went and signed Anderson, then they went and signed Sander Berg, then they went and signed Emile Smith-Rowe, and then they brought in Reece Nelson on loan, and then Jimenez come back into the fold, and he was playing well, and I was like, wow, Marco Silva's improved this team without even
Fulham are slower movers in the summer transfer window than most clubs.
Yeah.
And part of that is down to the fact that Tony Khan tends to book wrestling shows in the summer because he's running the second biggest wrestling federation in the world, which always makes me laugh.
Alongside a Premier League football club.
He's got 6 jobs. It's hilarious. One thing about this Fulham team, that was one criticism of the Fulham squads in the last 2 or 3 seasons was it was old.
Yeah,
they had a lot of players.
What it was. Yeah,
they had a lot of players, 27 plus. And you're going, okay, you're getting them in their peak years, and you're getting as much out of them. But how do you replace them, especially when this is a problem Palace have as well? How do you recruit? How do you work as a London club where you're not Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham?
Yeah.
And Fulham have been really inventive this summer to do that. And the thing about Marco Silva is he's a solid. He's good at what he's good at, and he doesn't stray from that.
He's just great. Like he's just bang straight down the middle. You know what you're getting every single time Fulham step out on the pitch, and it just kind of shows to what we were speaking about before about the manager thing. It kind of shows you when you get in the Premier League and you get a survival under your belt, and then you're able to buy a few more players who raise the standard of the team so much more. You can almost like the tactics can be borderline, foundation, basic, but then as soon as the players come into the fold, they make you look so much better.
You get the recruitment right.
Yeah. And I just think they've been brilliant this season. I didn't think they were bad against us, even though they lost the game. I thought it was a very tight game. I think we probably deserved to win on the edge. But that opening game against Manchester United and Manchester City away are the only 2 losses they've had this season, which is pretty brilliant to say the least from the Fulham side. And I just think Marco Silva's been kind of one of the most underrated coaches of the past 2 years in the Premier League because of just how ever-present he's made the Fulham team without doing
Fulham are ever-present,
extravagant. Sorry,
I think you're right there in that. One, Fulham now are just an established Premier League team.
Yeah,
almost to the annoyance of some Fulham fans because those season ticket prices keep going up and up and up. Lads, come on, calm down. And there's also the thing of Marco Silva hasn't had the victory in the same way that, say, Graham Potter's Brighton had.
No one kind of looks at him and goes...
Because Graham Potter's Brighton, they beat up Man United 4-0. Normally you have the bit where the bottom half manager gets the big result of a top 6 team and then everyone goes, wow, that manager's been doing a brilliant job there. Whereas Marco Silva keeps having the, huge XG score, lost by a single goal.
Yeah.
Which means to say I'm totally terrified for when they do get that victory, because when they do, it'll be absolutely huge. They'll beat someone 4-0.
Yeah, I think it goes to show what we were saying before about the style thing, because I think if Marco Silva was doing what he was doing, building out from the back and tucking in the full-backs, it'd look a lot more desirable for other European clubs. But I don't actually think he's bothered. No. I think he's just kind of on a process with Fulham where they're just kind of improving year on year. They're steady in the Premier League. They're never going to get relegated.
Nope.
And they're just kind of going, we'll pick up a few points here and there. We'll beat Newcastle at home. We'll almost beat Manchester City. Should beat Manchester City away from home. And I think you're right in what you're saying there. I don't think Fulham have really had too many statement victories against big enough teams and put on a show on under the lights kind of thing to almost be looked at and be like, oh, they're doing really well. But obviously Manchester City still did win the game, unfortunately.
They still won the game. They're in this really interesting... I'll put it to you this way. If Gundogan hadn't come back...
Oh, yeah.
You don't even need to answer it. That's the answer itself. If Gundogan hadn't returned, I'd have put someone else as Premier League favourites right now. Now Rodri's injured. But now Gundo's back. Yeah. I still can't
you just can't look past it. I think if they didn't have him and their window was just Savio or Savinho, you'd just be kind of looking at it going... And now we're obviously with a Rodri thing. This was a game. Ume made a really, really good point last week. Manchester City obviously don't have Rodri, and whilst people seem to think it's affecting them, it is affecting them, but not in the way that people realise. So Manchester City now, because they don't have him, are trying to do too much to make up for not having him. Mm-hmm. And because they're doing that, they're trying to control the game, obviously, maybe a bit too much, and it's slowing down and it's getting a bit... And against a team like Fulham, with Adama Traore, I've not forgot you yet, who can run in behind and beat Kyle Walker in a foot race with 10 metres apart from each other. They're giving that much space up to a team like that kind of... It makes it seem like Rodri's an issue, but it's not the issue. It's kind of because they're trying too hard to make up for the loss of Rodri instead of doing something a bit different. And
also what you're saying is rather than trying to control games, they should just go Haaland.
Yeah, I think they should just go Haaland, Diarra's a few balls in behind. Yeah. Do you actually see City not winning this league title? I've said for the past 2 seasons Arsenal are going to win it, so I've got no problem saying it again. But
this is the first season I went Arsenal going to win it. So I believe Arsenal's going to win one of the next 3.
Yeah, okay, but which of them three?
The Arsenal Premier League win is coming.
Yeah,
and I said this one before Gundogan came back because again, speak to Liverpool fans about last season, and it was very much Arsenal took it to the final day because Gundogan wasn't there, and we talk about playoff Gundo and how basically it gets to April time. That guy I don't know what he drinks.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's taking. That guy's phenomenal April onwards. And if he hadn't have come back and Rodri had got injured, I would have gone, see, this is why Arsenal are going to win a title. But now he's here.
It kind of feels like he's going to just drop.
I'm still looking in the back of my rearview mirror. I've still predicted Arsenal to win the league title. I think they've just got a way of grinding out victories. I think Saka's a phenomenal football player. You got Kai Havertz doing things. So if Arsenal don't win it, it's because 1, they stepped on a rake, or 2, Gundogan did something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I do think Arsenal will win the league this season. I thought they were going to win it last season, but obviously that didn't happen. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think Liverpool are just one to watch because obviously they've got that fixture running coming in where it's going to be a bit more intense for them. But we'll see after that. We'll know a lot more about Liverpool. But finally, on to just the last extras, just a few things we wanted to basically cast out into the ocean. Wayne Rooney at Plymouth is just something that I really wanted to talk about. So they scored a 97th minute winner, Morgan Whittaker, who was one of the best players in the Championship last season. Rooney was sent off for the 97th minute winner, so he didn't actually get to see it. But I just wanted to read out this tweet that a Plymouth fan put on Twitter just to kind of tell you how Plymouth fans are taking to Rooney. This tweet did absolute numbers. I'm loving Wayne Rooney's tenure so far. We're winning games, we're playing entertaining and attacking football. He's bleeding in the youngsters. He's out and about and embracing the city. So many expected him and wanted him to fail, but with us, he's been given a proper platform to succeed.
Took me by surprise.
And I think so. They had the opening 4-0 against Sheffield Wednesday where they kind of got battered, and then I think since then they've dropped some really strong performances against I think Luton. They played Blackburn. Blackburn's a team they beat this weekend. I think they beat Luton. Sissoko scored 2 goals off the bench. But I just think overall, I'm really happy for him because obviously it went so sour at Birmingham, and then as soon as you come in, everyone just kind of went, oh, for God's sake, kind of thing, like, why have we done that? But he's come in, he's embraced the squad, and I think the games where I've watched where his Plymouth teams have won, he celebrates so well with his players. Like the actual like environment around his players and the full-time scenes when he goes over to hug them all. Yeah, I think he's building something really nice, and obviously to keep Plymouth up or to even get mid-table or something like that would be a crazy achievement for him, and it would definitely be a tick on the resume in terms of how it's gone so far for him in England as a head coach. Thank you very much for listening and watching the second episode of the Overlap Breakdown podcast. Join us again next week where we'll be covering not the Premier League's weekend's action because it's international break. So we'll find something to talk about that will just be just as entertaining. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you again next week.